Anjali Sharma was living her dream wedding, surrounded by family and friends, completely trusting her best friend Priya, until jealousy and obsession turned that friendship into a deadly trap, leaving her life shattered in a single terrifying moment. Anjali Sharma had always been the heart of her community, known for her warmth, laughter, and the effortless way she made everyone around her feel valued. Growing up in Jaipur, she had spent her childhood chasing dreams, studying hard, and nurturing friendships that she believed would last a lifetime. Her life had always seemed destined for happiness, and when she met Arjun Kapoor, she felt as though fate had finally smiled on her. Arjun was kind, charming, and deeply devoted, the kind of man every family would hope their daughter married. The news of their engagement had been celebrated across neighborhoods, with families exchanging gifts, blessings, and joyful tears. As the day of the wedding approached, Anjali's excitement was palpable. The streets near her home were decorated with bright marigolds, colorful drapes, and shimmering lights that reflected the community's joy. Vendors hustled to finish their preparations. Musicians rehearsed the traditional melodies, and the aroma of spices from countless kitchens filled the air. Despite the whirlwind of activity, Anjali remained calm, her mind focused on the life she was about to begin with Arjun. She had imagined this day since childhood, picturing herself walking through corridors lined with loved ones, feeling the weight of her red bridal sari and the sparkle of gold jewelry. Everything seemed perfect, almost dreamlike, as if the universe had conspired to reward her patience and virtue. Her family showered her with love, helping her with every detail, from the intricate henna patterns on her hands to the delicate folds of her attire. Little did anyone know that beneath the surface of celebration, a storm was quietly gathering. A shadow, disguised as friendship and loyalty, had already begun to follow her, one that would turn the happiest day of her life into a tragedy beyond imagination. Priya had been Anjali's best friend since childhood, their bond forged over school lunches, shared secrets, and countless sleepovers. On the surface, Priya appeared cheerful, supportive, and endlessly loyal, always the first to congratulate Anjali on her achievements and share in her excitement. But beneath that friendly exterior, a storm had been quietly growing. For years, Priya had carried feelings for Arjun, feelings she never expressed, bottled up behind a mask of smiles and laughter. She had watched him from afar, admired him in silence, and in her mind, claimed a future with him that had never been hers to take. When she learned of Anjali's engagement, a wave of jealousy surged through her, consuming rational thought and replacing it with obsession. As the wedding day drew near, Priya's envy intensified. She meticulously observed Anjali, noting every detail of her dress fittings, every interaction with Arjun, every moment the bride shone in public. Each smile Anjali gave to Arjun felt like a personal affront, each touch a cruel reminder that Priya's desire would never be fulfilled. Yet, she hid these feelings perfectly, presenting herself as the devoted friend. Family members praised her for her dedication, unaware that the same hands that helped drape Anjali's sari were trembling with suppressed rage. In private moments, Priya's mind replayed endless scenarios, each more violent than the last. She imagined taking what she believed was rightfully hers, removing the obstacle between her and Arjun in any way necessary. The jealousy that had been quietly simmering for years was now a boiling force, shaping her thoughts and actions. Nobody could suspect that the woman standing next to Anjali, laughing and congratulating her, was quietly planning a betrayal so dark it would shatter the lives of everyone at the wedding. The friend everyone trusted the most was also the one harboring the deadliest secret. The morning of the wedding arrived with a deceptive calm. While Anjali was surrounded by family, laughter, and the bright chaos of preparation, Priya moved through the same spaces with quiet precision. To everyone else, she appeared like the perfect friend, helping with last-minute decorations, adjusting the folds of Anjali's sari, and offering reassuring smiles. No one suspected that behind those composed eyes, her thoughts were far from friendly. Every gesture, every word, was calculated to maintain the illusion of loyalty. Priya had become an expert at hiding her obsession. She laughed at the jokes of family members, offered suggestions for flower arrangements, and even carried trays of sweets with practiced cheerfulness. Yet beneath that composed exterior, her mind was a storm. She watched Anjali from a distance, noting the way she leaned toward Arjun, the softness in his gaze when he looked at her, and the way guests fussed over every detail of her bridal appearance. Each moment was a reminder of the life Priya felt had been stolen from her, and each smile Anjali gave Arjun fueled a quiet, simmering rage. In the solitude of brief, unnoticed moments, Priya rehearsed what she would do, over and over, imagining scenarios where Anjali's happiness could be interrupted forever. The thoughts, once fleeting, had solidified into a plan she believed was inevitable. To anyone else, it would have seemed impossible. Priya, the devoted best friend, the cheerful helper, the one everyone admired for her kindness. But in the corners of her mind, she was preparing for something far darker, an act that would shock everyone and redefine trust itself. The day had begun with celebration, but the seeds of tragedy had already been sown, hidden behind smiles and seemingly harmless gestures, waiting for the right moment to strike. The wedding ceremony unfolded like a scene from a dream, a cascade of color, music, and tradition. Anjali moved gracefully through the crowd, her red bridal sari glimmering under the soft sunlight, the gold jewelry around her neck catching every glance. Family members lined the corridors, offering blessings and showering her with flowers. The air was thick with the fragrance of marigolds and incense, and the rhythmic beats of traditional drums echoed through the hall. Everything seemed perfect, a celebration of love and the joining of two families. Priya stood nearby, her smile bright and unwavering, blending seamlessly into the festive atmosphere. She offered gentle touches on Anjali's shoulders, complimented her on the intricate henna patterns, and nodded along with the elders' words of advice. To the outside world, she was the epitome of friendship, a devoted companion sharing in the bride's happiness. But behind those eyes, the storm of envy raged on. Every glance Arjun cast at Anjali, every hand he held, every word he whispered, seemed to deepen a growing darkness in Priya's mind. As rituals progressed, the ceremony felt timeless, yet beneath the surface, tension coiled like a hidden serpent. Priya's thoughts moved faster than the music, plotting, calculating, imagining the impossible becoming real. She had been waiting for this moment, observing, pretending, and now, with everyone distracted by joy and tradition, she saw her opportunity forming quietly. The crowd celebrated, unaware that one person in their midst had already decided that the day meant more than union, it meant destruction. In that moment, the line between friendship and obsession blurred completely. What appeared as laughter and celebration was, in Priya's mind, the calm before a storm. And the storm she was about to unleash would turn the happiest day of Anjali's life into a nightmare no one could have predicted. As the reception began, the hall buzzed with music, laughter, and the clinking of glasses. Guests danced under the shimmering lights, unaware that a shadow had been quietly following the bride throughout the day. Priya moved among them with practiced ease, her outward composure flawless. She complimented relatives, offered assistance with the catering staff, and laughed at jokes, all while her mind was entirely elsewhere. Each glance at Anjali and Arjun sent a surge of jealousy through her, a mixture of longing and rage that made her pulse quicken. Priya had prepared carefully for this day. She carried a small, inconspicuous object, one that no one could suspect, hidden in the folds of her sari. Days of planning had gone into ensuring that her act could happen without anyone noticing until it was too late. She followed Anjali discreetly, pretending to adjust her veil or check the decorations, all while positioning herself for the perfect moment. To the guests, she was the devoted friend, the supportive bridesmaid, the one who had been by Anjali's side since childhood. But in truth, she was a predator stalking her prey, her mind calculating each step with meticulous precision. As the bride laughed with relatives and Arjun spoke warmly to friends, Priya observed quietly from the edges of the crowd. Every detail mattered: the angle of the corridor, the timing of the distractions, the movements of those around her. She could almost feel the climax of her plan approaching, and a dark satisfaction crept in as the final pieces fell into place. No one could have guessed that the friend everyone trusted the most was plotting a betrayal that would shatter the entire celebration. The joyous atmosphere of the reception masked the tension that only Priya could feel, a silent storm growing ever closer to its inevitable explosion. The secluded corridor behind the reception hall was quiet, almost eerily so, a sharp contrast to the laughter and music filling the main venue. Anjali, unaware of the danger, walked ahead, adjusting her sari and greeting a few relatives who had stepped aside. Priya followed at a careful distance, her heartbeat steady despite the storm of anticipation inside her. Every step had been rehearsed in her mind, every movement calculated to ensure no one would notice until it was too late. The corridor, dimly lit and narrow, offered the perfect place for her to act without interruption. In that brief moment, the years of jealousy and obsession erupted into a decisive action. Priya struck quickly, the result of meticulous planning and suppressed rage. The assault was sudden and precise, leaving no time for Anjali to react. In an instant, the bright life that had filled the room moments before was extinguished. The vibrant bride collapsed, her dreams, her family's joy, and her future vanishing in a heartbeat. The sound of her fall echoed faintly, lost amid the distant music, and for a few seconds, the world seemed to hold its breath. Priya stood over her, a flicker of satisfaction in her eyes, though she knew the aftermath would be chaos. The act she had imagined countless times had finally occurred, and the consequences were about to ripple outward, shattering everything around her. By the time guests noticed the absence of the bride and followed the corridor, the moment of horror had already passed. Anjali lay motionless, the energy of the day transformed into panic and disbelief. What had begun as a celebration of love was now a scene of unimaginable tragedy, all orchestrated by the person everyone had trusted the most. The wedding that promised joy had been turned into a nightmare no one could have foreseen. Screams pierced the air as guests realized something was terribly wrong. The music and laughter of the reception halted abruptly, replaced by cries of confusion and panic. Relatives rushed toward the corridor, their faces pale, their eyes wide with disbelief. Anjali lay on the floor, lifeless, and the reality of the tragedy began to sink in. The joy that had filled the day only moments before dissolved into chaos, and the wedding that had promised happiness became a scene of horror. Priya stood among the crowd, her expression carefully crafted to appear shocked and distraught. She clasped her hands to her mouth, her eyes brimming with tears, all while the satisfaction of what she had done remained hidden beneath the surface. Guests tried to comprehend how such a thing could happen, questioning one another in frantic whispers. The family of the bride fell to their knees, unable to fathom that their beloved Anjali, radiant and full of life, could be gone in an instant. Emergency services were called, and paramedics arrived swiftly, but it was already too late. Investigators began to secure the scene, speaking to frantic relatives and guests. Every person there tried to process the betrayal, the fact that someone so close could cause so much pain. Priya continued to perform her role flawlessly, offering comfort, supporting distraught family members, and guiding authorities, all while concealing the truth that she had orchestrated the tragedy herself. The corridors of the hall, once echoing with music and celebration, now resonated with grief, confusion, and anger. Questions lingered in the air. How could a trusted friend commit such a cruel act? Who could have imagined that beneath smiles and shared memories, envy had festered into murder? The wedding, meant to mark the beginning of a new life, had become a nightmare that would haunt the community forever. The police arrived within minutes, their presence turning the chaotic scene into a tense, controlled environment. Officers cordoned off the reception hall, guiding guests to separate rooms, while forensic teams began examining every detail. Cameras, fingerprints, and the smallest traces of evidence were meticulously recorded. Family members were questioned repeatedly, their grief making it difficult to concentrate, while detectives carefully observed reactions, searching for inconsistencies that might reveal the truth. At first, the idea that a best friend could commit such a brutal act seemed impossible. Priya's carefully maintained persona of loyalty and devotion had convinced everyone that she was a pillar of support. She spoke softly to investigators, her words laced with apparent shock and sorrow, painting herself as someone who had shared in Anjali's happiness until the tragic moment. But seasoned detectives noticed subtle discrepancies. Her movements during the ceremony, the timing of her presence near the corridor, and the way she had interacted with guests all raised questions. Forensic evidence began to tell its own story. Small traces on the floor and nearby surfaces suggested that the attack had been deliberate and carefully executed. CCTV footage captured movements that did not match the timeline of the celebration. Even minor details, like a misplaced item and Priya's position at critical moments, hinted that the seemingly loyal friend had been closer to the act than anyone suspected. As the investigation deepened, the picture became clearer. Jealousy had driven someone to commit the unthinkable. The betrayal was no accident. It was premeditated. The realization that the person closest to Anjali could harbor such lethal intent sent shockwaves through the family and community. What began as a day of celebration had transformed into a chilling mystery, one that would expose the dark heart of envy hidden behind friendship. As investigators pieced together the events of the day, new evidence began to surface, painting a disturbing picture. CCTV footage from cameras near the corridor revealed Priya's movements in sharp detail. She appeared to linger at unusual moments, glancing around as if ensuring no one was watching. Her steps were calculated, deliberate, and the timing suggested she had been waiting for the perfect opportunity. Every angle captured subtle but telling gestures that contradicted the image of a distraught friend. Forensic analysis added another layer of revelation. The object used in the attack, carefully concealed in Priya's sari, was examined. Traces of her fingerprints and other forensic markers indicated premeditation, confirming that the assault was not a spur-of-the-moment act, but a planned execution. Investigators noted the precision of the attack, the way it had been carried out so quickly and efficiently, and the complete absence of hesitation. It was clear that jealousy had driven Priya to orchestrate the perfect crime, masking her intentions behind a facade of loyalty. Interviews with relatives and close friends uncovered a hidden side of Priya that few had noticed before. Subtle behaviors, unusual glances at Arjun, and long-standing resentment toward Anjali began to emerge in their statements. The pattern of envy became undeniable. The once-believed perfect friendship had been a cover for a dangerous obsession. With the motive becoming clear, detectives prepared to confront Priya. The jealousy, obsession, and envy that had simmered for years now explained the unthinkable act of betrayal. The investigation revealed a chilling truth. The person who had smiled beside Anjali, who had shared in every wedding preparation, had carefully plotted to destroy her best friend's life and happiness. The crime was no longer a mysterious tragedy. It was a premeditated act fueled by human obsession and envy, laying bare the darkest side of friendship. Within days of the investigation, authorities had gathered enough evidence to confront Priya. Her carefully constructed mask of loyalty and sorrow began to crumble under the weight of forensic proof, CCTV footage, and witness accounts. Detectives approached her with precision, knowing that her composure would be tested. Priya, who had seemed untouchable in her performance of grief, now faced the undeniable reality that her actions could no longer be hidden. When she was formally arrested, the news rippled through the community like a shockwave. Friends, relatives, and neighbors struggled to reconcile the image of the devoted best friend with the reality of a calculated killer. The betrayal cut deeper than the act itself. The person everyone had trusted the most, the one who had stood beside Anjali throughout her life, had been the architect of her death. Shock turned to anger. Disbelief gave way to grief, and the entire community was left grappling with the enormity of the crime. Media coverage intensified the scrutiny. Headlines highlighted the twisted friendship and the deadly obsession, painting a vivid picture of jealousy turned lethal. Priya's arrest became a cautionary tale about envy, obsession, and the dangers hidden behind seemingly perfect relationships. Social media erupted with reactions, as people struggled to understand how someone so close could harbor such dark intentions. Within the family, mourning was complicated by the sense of betrayal. Anjali's parents and siblings wrestled not only with the loss of their daughter, but with the knowledge that her death had been orchestrated by someone they had welcomed into their hearts. The wedding that had begun as a celebration of love had ended in a tragedy that would haunt everyone involved for years. Priya's arrest marked the beginning of justice, but it could never restore the life that had been so cruelly stolen. The aftermath of Anjali's death left a community in shock, struggling to comprehend the depth of the betrayal. Families tried to console one another, but grief mingled with anger, disbelief, and a sense of profound loss. The wedding, once a symbol of love and celebration, had become a haunting memory, replayed endlessly in the minds of those who had attended. Photographs, flowers, and decorations that were meant to mark happiness now served as painful reminders of a life cut short. Priya's trial began amid intense media scrutiny. Every detail of the planning, every hidden resentment, and every step she had taken to carry out the attack was laid bare. Witnesses recounted her subtle behaviors, her unusual glances, and the way she had manipulated those around her. The courtroom became a place where the darkest aspects of human nature were exposed, revealing how obsession and envy could override loyalty, love, and reason. The community struggled to reconcile the friendship that had appeared perfect with the deadly reality that had unfolded. Anjali's family mourned deeply, their grief compounded by the knowledge that someone they had trusted implicitly had caused irreparable harm. Yet, in the midst of despair, lessons emerged about trust, vigilance, and the shadows that can lurk behind even the closest relationships. As the trial concluded and justice moved forward, Anjali's story became a cautionary tale, repeated in whispers and warnings. Her life, though tragically short, left an indelible mark on everyone who knew her. The celebration of a wedding transformed into a chilling reminder that envy can hide behind smiles, and that betrayal often comes from those we hold closest. Anjali's memory lived on as both a tragedy and a warning, a testament to the fragile line between love and obsession and the devastating consequences when it is crossed.